we're going to talk about how my Zpacks 38 liter, is that what it is? Shit. I'm sweating. And see if I can get, there's the first red ant. Yikes. Can't. Gosh, damn it. Ow. I'm going to be a mess after this video. It's so hot. Today we're going to talk about how the Zpacks Nero 38 did on my through hikes of the Cumbria Way, the Hebridean Way, and the West Highland Way in Scotland. Stay tuned. Hi everybody, it's Shan. I'm coming to you from sunny Florida, where it is in fact 99 degrees Fahrenheit right now. Oh my God. If you guys watched my previous videos, you'll know that prior to this, I was using the Zpacks 64 liter Arc Haul Zip backpack. That was the one that I chose for my West Highland Way, Great Glen Way trek in April and May of 2022. I quickly realized that that pack was a little bit too much volume for me, as I'm the kind of person that if I've got the room, I'm gonna put crap in it. So I spent a good part of the following year in prep for this summer's hikes, trying to dial in my gear, get everything a little bit lighter, and find a lighter pack that was going to work with what I wanted to bring with me. I loved the Arc Haul Zip. It's very comfortable. It worked well for what I put it through. However, I realized that 64 liters is way too much for me, especially for the types of treks that I am currently doing. I am aiming to do longer treks in the future, and we'll get into that in another video. I wanted to try to dial things in as much as possible and see if I could get below the base weight that I got last year. Last year, I believe my base weight was about 22 or 24 pounds. I can't remember which. This year, my base weight was significantly lower. I think I was 12.6 pounds base weight. And this backpack has a max load capacity of 20 pounds. So I knew that by choosing this backpack, I was not only going to have to go lighter, but I was going to be giving up some comforts that my Arc Haul Zip had. The Zpacks Nero 38 liter Robic is no longer in production, meaning that the Robic DCF fabric that they used for this one, they have improved a bit. And now the Nero is sold under the name Nero Ultra. So you can go on Zpacks' website and check that out and see what they did to the Nero backpack from this version to the new one. This one I purchased almost immediately after coming back from my trips in 2022. And I immediately began training and trying to dial in everything to make this pack work. Let's take a look at the pack. I do have a video that goes into more detail about the features of this pack, so I'm not going to get too far into that. I will link that video down below. So one of the things that this pack came with was this sit pad, this little foam sit pad. It is normally on the back here. And I will say that that is one of the things that I considered leaving out, but I ended up taking it with me and I used it a ton. Looking at the Nero 38 liter, it is a very small bag. Even when it's completely loaded out, it is extremely light. Everything is very minimal on this pack, even though there are still the important features such as adjustable chest strap and the daisy chain loops. These side pockets here were an absolute godsend. Water bottles were very easy to get out of this. Even though there are a lot of backpacks that have this feature with the sloping side pockets, this one I had no trouble at all getting my smart water bottles in and out. I did add a V-top strap to this pack that I purchased separately. I considered adding a hip belt pocket because, as you can see, the hip belts, I've got it twisted up in here. The hip belts on here, this is it. It's a very minimal hip belt strap. You can, however, use the Zpacks, what is it called? The little hip belt pocket. I actually took it off my Arc Haul backpack and put it on here, but it flopped around a lot. And if I can find the video that I recorded with that, I will put it on here, because that's one thing that I just couldn't deal with. So I didn't take a hip belt pocket. So I had no cushioned hip belt, no hip belt pocket. This pack also is a frameless backpack, so there's no internal or external frame. And as a result, that pack, the material is sitting right up against your back. I believe there was some question as to whether or not these little divots would let airflow through. Hello, little bug. But in my experience, it did not. And I had a wet back for a lot of this trip. And that's just one of the things that I expected to happen. This external pocket is extremely stretchable. It will fit a lot of things in there. But also, if you take a look here, you can see that the stitching has come out up here and over here, which for me, you know, not a big deal. But for a $200 backpack and a trip of all total about 350 miles, not counting the miles that I put on it practicing for, you know, shakedowns, I don't know how I feel about that. You can also see that there is a hole here. There's also a hole, where is it? Right there. No, it is not from my fingernails. I cut my fingernails down before this trip because I didn't want to poke any of my gear with it. A lot of lightweight gear is quite fragile, so you kind of have to be careful. And I did cut these nails down before I went on this trip, so that is not what these holes are from. They are from rubbing up against things. There was very little, I don't remember many times where I was, you know, bushwhacking. I wasn't doing any bushwhacking on this trip. There were a couple of times on the Cumbria Way where I was going through some pretty dense overgrowth, but I didn't feel like it was anything that should have snagged this, but that's what happened. So that is that. The bottom appears fine. The fabric held up really well. It is quite a durable, even though extremely lightweight fabric. So, you know, it looks pretty good there on the bottom. So I think for the $200 that I paid for this pack, it really held up pretty well, and I'm happy with how it performed. I think that if you are looking for a lightweight pack and your kit is extremely lightweight and you've got everything dialed down and you're not doing any long water carries or anything like that, or you know, having to carry a bunch of food. I never carried more than 3 days worth of food in this at a time. And I did find myself wondering whether or not I could make it work if I was on a winter hike or just a cooler, colder climate hike in general, because having to find a place to put all that gear, I don't know. There were a couple times on this trip where I found myself really trying to cram stuff in and not able to really seal the pack at the top properly. So it was really difficult for me still, with as much as I dialed in everything, to really stay under that 20-pound max load capacity. I was kind of worried about this little tiny loop up here, but it seemed to do really well. There were a couple of days where the water sources were a little more dried up than I expected them to be, and I got a little worried, so packed a little bit more water for the following day. And I did find that a little difficult. It wasn't super comfortable then when it got a little heavier, because all the weight was on my shoulders, because there is no support in the hip belt and there is no frame in the pack. So everything went up here, and I'm super tight in my traps anyway, so that was a little difficult for me. But overall, I think it performed really well, and I feel confident in recommending this pack to someone who is trying to go lighter. I'm sorry, I am getting eaten alive. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Check out my Patreon page. I will put the link to that down below, where you can get sneak previews of my trips and gear choices to come. So have a great day, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.